They told you Hathor was the goddess of love and beauty, a gentle cow-headed deity of parties, music, and pleasure. They made her sound frivolous, a decorative figure in a dusty pantheon, the patroness of life's pleasant but ultimately shallow distractions. But that is a lie. A carefully constructed lie designed to conceal one of the most powerful, primal, and essential forces in all of creation. Hathor is not the goddess of superficial pleasure. She is the living embodiment of divine joy, the cosmic matrix through which all life is born, the fierce eye of the sun, and the loving womb that nurtures the awakened soul. They reduced her to a party girl because they did not want you to discover the truth, that your joy is not a distraction from your spiritual path. It is the path. That pleasure is not a sin. It is a form of prayer. And that a human being who is fully embodied, sensually alive, and unapologetically joyful is a direct threat to any system built on fear, scarcity, and control. You have felt her call your entire life, in the music that makes your spirit soar, in the beauty that brings tears to your eyes, in the deep, resonant peace that follows a moment of true, uninhibited laughter. That is not just emotion, that is her. The Golden One, the Lady of the Stars, the Mistress of Life, and she is rising again, not in the temples of Egypt, but in the heart of humanity, inviting you to remember a truth they tried to bury. The truth that the universe was born from ecstasy, and that your birthright is to return to it. To unlock the mystery of Hathor, you must first understand her sacred name. It translates to the House of Horus, or the Mansion of Horus. This is not a poetic title, it is a precise cosmological statement. She is not a person, she is a place, a divine vessel, a sacred architecture. Horus represents the awakened, unified, divine consciousness, the fully realized soul. Hathor is the cosmic house, the nurturing temple, the energetic and loving matrix in which that divine consciousness can be conceived, protected, and born. She is the very fabric of reality that makes enlightenment possible. Without the loving, joyful, life-affirming field that is Hathor, there can be no Horus. There can be no awakening. There can be no ascension. This is a truth that shatters the foundation of patriarchal spirituality, which has always placed the goal of enlightenment out there, a distant masculine peak to be conquered through struggle and asceticism. Hathor declares that the goal is not out there. It is born within the sacred, loving, joyful vessel of embodied reality itself. She is the proof that you don't escape the world to find God. You find God by fully, ecstatically inhabiting the world. She is not a deity to be worshipped from afar. She is the very atmosphere of love and joy you are meant to breathe. She is the principle of divine immanence, the truth that the sacred is not separate from the sensual, that the heavens are not separate from the earth, and that your body is not a prison for your soul, but a holy temple designed for the worship of life itself. But this gentle, loving, all-encompassing goddess has another face. A face of fire, terror, and divine rage. And if you do not understand this other face, you will never understand her true power. You see, the great secret, the one they worked so hard to split apart, is that Hathor is the original eye of Ra. She is the first and most powerful manifestation of the sun's fiery gaze. And when that gaze is turned to righteous anger, Hathor becomes the lioness-headed goddess of destruction, Sekhmet. In the myth, humanity becomes rebellious, forgetting the divine laws. The great god Ra, in his anger, plucks his own eye from his forehead and sends it to earth to punish them. That eye takes form as a terrifying lioness who begins to slaughter mankind, her rage so consuming that she threatens to destroy all of creation. She is drunk on blood, a whirlwind of divine fury. The other gods become terrified. They realize she will not stop. So Ra devises a plan. He orders that vast quantities of beer be dyed red with ochre to resemble blood. They pour this red beer across the fields in her path. The lioness, thinking it is more blood, laps it up greedily. The sacred intoxication pacifies her rage, soothes her fire, and she falls asleep. When she awakens, her destructive fury has been transformed into its opposite pole, the gentle, loving, joyful goddess of celebration, Hathor. This is not a story about getting a goddess drunk. It is a profound alchemical formula. It teaches that divine joy, Hathor, and divine rage, Sekhmet, are not two different beings. They are the same energy, the same divine feminine fire, vibrating at two different poles. And it teaches that the path from consuming rage to ecstatic joy is through a sacred, conscious intoxication, an immersion in the red beer, which symbolizes the blood, the passion, the raw, earthy, embodied fluids of life itself. It means you cannot bypass your fire. You cannot spiritually escape your rage. You must meet it, honor it, and consciously immerse it in the loving waters of life and compassion. Only then can it be transformed. You have been taught to fear your rage, to see your anger as a destructive, unspiritual force. But Hathor teaches that your anger is holy. It is the fire that burns away illusion. It is the roar that says no to injustice. It is the purifying force of Sekhmet that annihilates all that is not in alignment with truth. You have also been taught to be suspicious of your joy, to see pleasure as a shallow distraction, but Hathor teaches that joy is your natural state. It is the frequency of a soul in alignment with the cosmos. It is the peace that comes after the necessary fire has cleared the way. To be whole is not to choose between the lioness and the cow. It is to know that you are the lioness when a boundary is crossed, and you are the cow-headed mother, nurturing the world with your milk of kindness when the battle is won. You must be willing to be the consuming fire and the gentle rain. That is the integrated power they tried to split apart, because a woman who has befriended both her rage and her joy is a woman who is free. The most iconic symbol of Hathor, besides the cow, is the mirror. In the modern world, the mirror is a tool of the ego, a source of vanity and self-judgment. But for the ancients and for Hathor, the mirror was a sacred instrument of magic and truth. Her mirror was not made of glass. It was typically a highly polished disc of copper or gold, materials associated with the sun and divinity. And it was not used to look at one's physical appearance. It was used to see one's true self. To gaze into the Hathoric mirror was to bypass the superficial mask of the personality and see your Ka, your divine double, your eternal soul self. It was a tool for scrying, for prophecy, for revealing the hidden truths that lie beneath the surface of reality. The mirror does not lie. It simply reflects what is. And Hathor, in her profound, unconditional love, holds up this mirror for you, not so you can judge your flaws, but so you can finally recognize your own divinity. This is an act of radical self-awareness. Her loving, steady gaze is what gives you the courage to look at yourself without flinching, to see your shadows and your light, your wounds and your gifts, and to embrace all of it as part of your sacred whole. This is why she is so dangerous to the system. The system you live in is built on a hall of distorted mirrors. Social media is a mirror that reflects a curated, false version of life designed to make you feel inadequate. Advertising is a mirror that reflects your manufactured insecurities back at you, promising a solution it can never deliver. The news is a mirror that reflects a world of fear and division, designed to keep you feeling powerless. They want you constantly looking into these external, broken mirrors, always comparing, always striving, always feeling like you are not enough. Hathor invites you to put down their mirrors and pick up your own, to turn your gaze inward, to practice the art of sacred self-reflection, to ask the question, who am I? Really, beneath the roles, the conditioning, the stories. Every time you have a moment of piercing self-honesty, where you see one of your own patterns with sudden, breathtaking clarity, you are looking into the mirror of Hathor. Every time you find the courage to see the truth of a situation, even when it is painful, you are invoking her power. She is the principle of clear seeing. Her energy cuts through the fog of denial, projection, and illusion. She is the loving truth that sets you free, even if that truth first shatters the world you thought you knew. To walk her path is to commit to a life of fearless self-inquiry. It is to be willing to see yourself as you truly are, a divine being playing a human role. The mirror doesn't create your divinity. It simply reminds you that it was there all along, waiting to be seen, waiting to be acknowledged, waiting to be loved. The temples of Hathor were not quiet, solemn places of prayer. They were alive with sound. The primary sacred instrument of the goddess was the sistrum, a type of rattle with a handle and crossbars holding small metal discs. When shaken, it created a loud, vibrating, jingling sound. This was not just music. This was a sophisticated form of sonic technology. The ancients understood that all of reality is vibration. Stagnation, sickness, sorrow, and negative energy are all forms of low, dissonant, chaotic vibration. The sound of the sistrum, loud and clear, was designed to energetically shake up reality. It was a tool for breaking apart stagnant energy patterns, for clearing a sacred space of malevolent influences, and for raising the vibrational frequency of a person or a place back into a state of harmonic resonance. It was an instrument of vibrational hygiene. And this technology was always paired with her other great practices, music and dance. The association of Hathor with ecstatic celebration is not about hedonism. It is a profound spiritual teaching. The systems of control, particularly the patriarchal religions that followed, taught that to be spiritual, you must be disembodied. You must silence the body, deny its senses, and transcend the physical through silent, still, mental prayer. Hathor teaches the exact opposite. She teaches that the body is the ultimate sacred instrument, and that music and dance are not distractions. They are two of the most powerful methods for altering consciousness and achieving direct communion with the divine. When you dance with wild, joyful abandon, you are not just moving your body. You are shaking up the stagnant energy within you. You are liberating trapped emotions. You are silencing the chattering mind and entering a state of pure, embodied presence. Ecstatic dance is a moving meditation, a prayer offered through every cell of your being. This is why the forces of control have always been terrified of ecstasy. The word ecstasy literally means to stand outside oneself. A person in a state of ecstatic union, whether through dance, music, chanting, or sacred sexuality, is temporarily outside the cage of their ego. They are directly connected to the divine flow, experiencing a unity and a joy that makes the promises of any external authority seem pale and hollow. A person who knows how to generate their own ecstasy is a person who cannot be controlled. They don't need a priest to mediate their connection to God. They are dancing with God in their own living room, and so the system had to suppress this. They took the sacred dance and called it sinful. They took the ecstatic music and called it devilish. They took the joy of the body and called it lust. They taught you to be still, to be quiet, to be solemn on your knees, because a silent, still, kneeling population is an obedient one. A dancing, singing, ecstatic population is a free one. You are being called to reclaim this lost technology. The music that makes your soul feel like it's expanding, the song that gives you chills, the beat that makes you want to move without thinking, that is your personal sistrum. It is the medicine of Hathor calling to you. Don't just listen to it, use it. When you feel stuck, stagnant, or heavy, put on that music and dance. Move your body, shake, let the energy flow. You are not just exercising or having fun. You are performing a sacred ritual of vibrational clearing. You are shaking up the old reality to make space for the new. You are clearing the temple of your body so the goddess of joy can enter. In a world that tries to keep you sedated with noise and distraction, the conscious use of sound and movement is a radical act of spiritual warfare. It is you taking back the power to set your own frequency. The suppression of Hathor was not just an attack on a single goddess. It was a war on the feminine principle of joy itself. It was a war on the body, on pleasure, on ecstasy, and on the cyclical wisdom of life. To understand the depth of what was lost, we must look at another of her mysterious roles, her connection to fate and death. The 7 Hathors were a collective of goddesses who would appear at the birth of a child to decree their destiny. This shows that Hathor was not just a goddess of the present moment's pleasure. She was deeply connected to the fabric of time, to the soul's journey, and to the patterns of fate. But this was not a rigid, unchangeable fate. It was a potential, a path that could be altered by the choices one made, by the joy or sorrow one chose to cultivate. Even more profoundly, Hathor was known as the Queen of the West. The West was the direction of the setting sun, the symbolic entrance to the afterlife, Duat. It was Hathor, in her loving, cow-headed form, who was the first to greet the souls of the deceased. She would emerge from the sycamore tree at the edge of the desert to offer them food and drink, spiritual nourishment, to give them strength for their journey through the underworld. This is a vision of death that is breathtaking in its compassion. There is no fearful judge, no threat of hellfire. There is only the loving maternal goddess, offering comfort and sustenance to a soul in transition. This gentle, nurturing vision of the afterlife was a direct threat to the systems of control that would later rise to power. They needed death to be a terrifying event, the ultimate tool of fear and intimidation. A loving mother goddess, waiting with a sip of cool water, had to be replaced by a male judge and the possibility of eternal torment. And so, the war on the body became the war on joy. The patriarchal religions that came to dominate the Western world declared the body and its pleasures to be the enemy of the spirit. Sensuality was sin. Desire was a trap. The female body, as the ultimate symbol of earthly pleasure and the portal of life, became a particular target of fear and shame. The sacred festivals of ecstatic celebration were rebranded as pagan orgies. The joy of dance and music was deemed frivolous at best and demonic at worst. The goal was to sever your connection to the vibrant, joyful, life-affirming frequency of Hathor. Because a soul disconnected from its own innate joy is a soul that is easy to control. It becomes a hungry ghost, endlessly seeking fulfillment in external things, in obedience to religious doctrine, in the accumulation of wealth, in the pursuit of status. It seeks pleasure in hollow, addictive forms, consumption, distraction, fleeting highs, because it has forgotten the path to deep, nourishing, sacred ecstasy. We are living in the world that this suppression created, a world that is joy-starved, a civilization that is largely disembodied, living in its head, alienated from nature and suspicious of its own senses. The epidemic of depression, anxiety, loneliness, and addiction that plagues modern society is a direct symptom of this collective soul loss. It is the cry of a world that has forgotten the goddess of joy. It is the ache in our hearts for the unconditional love, the vibrant beauty, and the ecstatic celebration that is our birthright. We have been living in a house without its mother, a kingdom without its queen. But the queen is returning. The memory of joy, the frequency of Hathor, is rising again in the collective consciousness. And it is rising not to be worshipped in a temple, but to be lived, embodied, and celebrated in the temple of your own life. The great remembering is upon you. The frequency of Hathor is returning to the planet, and it is calling to the souls who are ready to become its vessel. This is not a passive event you watch from the sidelines. It is an active invitation to become the living embodiment of divine joy. The awakening of your inner Hathor is the healing of the world. It begins with the radical act of falling in love with your own life, with your own body, with your own existence. It is the path of embodiment. You must come home to the temple of your body. Treat it not as an inconvenience or an object, but as a sacred instrument for experiencing the divine. Listen to its wisdom, nourish it with care, adorn it with beauty, move it with joy. See its sensuality as a holy language, a way of communing with the life force of the universe. To walk the path of Hathor, you must consciously cultivate beauty in your life. This is not about materialism, it is about frequency. Beauty elevates the spirit. It is a reminder of the divine order and harmony that underlies all of creation. Fill your home with art that inspires you. Spend time in the breathtaking beauty of nature. Wear colors that make your heart sing. Surround yourself with a frequency of grace and elegance. This is a form of active prayer, a way of telling the universe that you are aligned with its most beautiful expressions. And you must become a practitioner of sacred pleasure. Seek out experiences that delight your senses, not as a guilty indulgence, but as a spiritual necessity. Savor your food. Listen deeply to music. Feel the texture of the world around you. Give and receive loving touch. Reclaim your right to feel good, without shame, without apology. Your pleasure is not a sin. It is a sacrament. It is the offering you bring to the altar of life, and this leads to the ultimate mystery of her name. You must become the house of Horus. You must transform your own being into a safe, loving, joyful, and stable sacred space where your own higher consciousness can be born. You nurture your inner Horus by feeding it joy. You protect it by holding the frequency of love. You create a vibrant, beautiful, and stable inner temple, and the divine child of your own awakening will naturally come to dwell there. You do not achieve enlightenment through struggle and self-flagellation. You achieve it by becoming a being so full of love and joy that the divine has no choice but to take up residence within you. This is the ultimate rebellion. In a world that wants you anxious, distracted, and afraid, choosing joy is a revolutionary act. In a world that wants you disembodied and numb, choosing pleasure is an act of sacred defiance. In a world that wants you to feel worthless, choosing to see yourself as a divine temple is the ultimate declaration of sovereignty. The path of Hathor is the path of the heart's fierce and joyful courage. It is not always easy. The old programming will fight back. The world will try to pull you back into fear and solemnity, but the frequency of joy, once truly tasted, is irresistible. It becomes your compass, your medicine, your shield. You are not here to suffer. You are here to remember the ecstatic truth of your own being. The goddess of joy has returned, not to save you, but to remind you that the power to save yourself lies in your own capacity to love, to celebrate, and to fully, unapologetically live. The deeper mysteries of this ecstatic path are for those who are truly ready to embody them. If you feel this call, our newsletter, Insights Academy, is where we guide the sincere seeker into the heart of the goddess. The link is in the description. Join us and receive your free copy of the Kybalion. The celebration is about to begin. If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting. I understood it.